Hi, my name is Christopher Penn, co-founder and chief data scientist at Trust Insights, and today we are talking social media ROI, return on investment. How do you prove it so that you can continue to show gains in efficiency? This talk I've done a number of years ago. It's time to sort of update it, take a new look at how people are measuring, how you should be measuring it, and some when to use it, when not to use it. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a problem in social media, and the problem is this. We're spending more money than ever. Take a look in the February 2020 CMO survey, just a couple of days old now, as I record this. Social media spend as part of the marketing budget has reached its second highest point ever of 13.3%. We're spending lots and lots of money on social media. And chief marketing officers, that's who was surveyed in this the CMO survey, expect spending to rise an additional 62% over 5 years. So not only are we spending more, we're going to keep spending more on social media. What are we spending on? Well, we're spending a lot on outside agencies. 24%, nearly a quarter of all social media activities are done by someone outside of the firm, outside agencies. When we look at how many people inside our companies are doing social media, it actually has gone down since the last time they asked this question, 6 years ago, from 4 people to 3 people. So we're spending more, we're not employing more talent, which of course puts all of us in kind of a bind because, there's fewer people to do the work, yet we're spending more and apparently are being expected to do more. However, are we delivering on those results? Same survey, social media for the last 4 or 5 years has consistently under-delivered performance. When CMOs are asked, how does social media contribute to the overall company performance? The answer is it doesn't, right? Why? Well, part of the reason is that we can't prove the impact of what it is we're doing. When asked, and this chart's a little bit confusing, so I'll skip to the punchline, 70% of social media marketers, of chief marketing officers, can't prove the impact of their work. They can't quantitatively say this is the benefit of social media. That's a really bad position to be in. We're spending more, but we can't prove that we're spending more for a good reason, right? That's just a bad combination. What's likely to happen? Well, let's look ahead a little bit. As of the January 2020 Pricewaterhouse CEO survey, CEOs went from record optimism to record pessimism about the economic growth over the past 2 years. That is an astonishing reversal of fortune. CEOs feel like business is not going to be getting better anytime soon. And the OECD, the Organization of Economic Development for member states, says that the confidence in economic growth is lower than it's been except for the Great Recession. And by the way, this is before there was a pandemic. So we're spending more. We're not generating results. Can't prove that we're generating results. What's going to happen to us? Yep. Outright disaster. Specifically, what kinds of impacts should we expect to see as social media marketers if we cannot prove the value of the work that we're doing? We will be ineffective, right? Walking around with a bullseye on your back. And most importantly, cuts. Budget cuts, personnel cuts, staff cuts. When times get tough economically, people start looking for places to find efficiencies. The friendly euphemism for what can we cut. And you cut first the things that you know are not delivering results, which the CMOs identified, and that you can't prove that you're delivering results. So social media has a really big target on its back if we can't prove ROI. So how do we fix this? We use social media ROI. And I want to break this down. This may seem like a strange thing to try and explain at a social media marketing conference, but we want to break this down by first talking about what social media is. What is social media? Anyone want to throw out an answer? Okay. I realize you're watching this virtually. We think this is social media, right? Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, you name it, all these different social networks. But we're not thinking about what social media is, right? Social media fundamentally is any service where the value of the service obeys what's called Metcalfe's law of network effects. The idea that the more people who use the thing, the more the value increases for every user. Classic example, you take your phone, right? Your phone, if there was no other phone, all phones would not be useful, right? But have two people with phones that can call each other, and every time you add a phone to a person, every person who has a phone benefits. That's a network effect. When you think about a blog, right? A blog doesn't change the value for every new person who reads it, right? If one person or 100 people read a blog, the value of that blog post is the same to the reader, right? Just because more people are reading the blog doesn't make it better. On the other hand, take a social network like Twitter, for example. Would be a sad and lonely place if you only had one friend, right? It would have no value. So we want to think about expanding our minds as to what social media is. YouTube is a social network. It is social media. Quora, Weibo, Slack, Discord, 500 Pixels, Stack Overflow, Spiceworks, Pokemon Go, Twitch, Pornhub, GitHub, all of these different services that rely on the value of users bringing connections to the service is social media. So one of the first major takeaways for this talk is to change in your head what you think social media is, from just the big brand names to actually anything that obeys Metcalfe's law. That will change, by the way, what you measure in things like Google Analytics. Things that you would normally classify as, for example, referral traffic, like Quora or like Slack. You should be thinking that's actually social media, and that we should be classifying our efforts on those services as social media. Second, strategically, get out of the habit of saying, okay, we all got to be on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever. What is the social network for your industry? Right? If you're a photographer, 500 Pixels is a social network for your industry. Flickr, rest in peace, it was a social network for your media, for your industry. So what is the social network for your industry? And if you don't know it, go find out. If there isn't one, you have a golden opportunity to go and create one. So that's first part, setting up what is social media. Second, let's talk about return on investment, ROI. Return on investment is a financial formula, right? It is a financial formula that is a comparative financial measure to gauge efficiency. This is an important statement, a comparative financial measure to gauge efficiency. Let's unpack this statement. The first, financial measure. This is ROI, earned minus spent, divided by spent. That is return on investment. What you are essentially trying to find out is what is the cost of profitability, right? So you have your earnings minus your spent. That gets you your net, divided by what you spent, the cost, to help you understand the efficiency, which, by the way, means that anything else that is not using earnings and expenditures is not ROI. There are a lot of fun terms out there like return on engagement or return on kindness and stuff. That's fine. I think those are good marketing talking points, but they're not ROI. They are not a financial formula. Do not use them as such, and certainly do not try to measure your organization by such. So let's look at a couple of examples of what return on investment is. If I had a campaign and I earned $1,000 from that campaign in revenue to my company, and I spent $500, the formula would be 1,000 minus 500 divided by 500 is 100%. 100% return on investment. If I put $1 in the machine, $2 comes out, right? That is ROI. Second example, if I earned $250, but I kept spending $500, I have a minus 50% ROI. I put $1 in the machine and 50 cents comes out. This clearly sets aside ROI as a useful measure, because we can now see, okay, well, this over here that when I put $1 in the machine and $2 came out, I wanted to keep doing more of that. This one here where I put $1 in the machine and 50 cents came out, I don't know that I want to keep doing that, right? The importance of this cannot be understated. It is a comparative measure to gauge efficiency, right? ROI is only useful in comparison. Take, for example, Facebook. Suppose my ROI for Facebook was minus 25%. Okay, that's worth knowing, right? But it doesn't really tell me anything else other than Facebook's not performing great, right? If I put it next to Twitter and Twitter has a 14% ROI, now I have a comparison. I have a basis for comparison to say, okay, Twitter is doing better than Facebook. If I put up Google Ads with 147% ROI, now I have multiple bases for comparison, and I can understand that some things are working much better than others. And from that comparison, I can make a decision. I can say, okay, I'm going to stop doing the thing that's losing money. I'm going to reduce the amount of money I spend on things performing less well, and I can spend a lot more money on the thing that's doing really, really well. You can also compare over time. If your ROI on Facebook fluctuates up and down, then you can make comparisons. Like maybe now we should do more, maybe now we should do less. This is the ROI of a Facebook ads account. It's minus, it's negative the entire time. But you can see that over time, there's some periods of time which are less bad than others. Right? So comparison, either with another metric or over time, is an important use of this metric. So here's something really important. ROI is not a goal. Right? It is a measure, but it is not a goal. It's not something that you should have as a goal for your business or for your marketing, because it is a financial measure of efficiency. And generally speaking, we don't want to measure things in terms of efficiency. We want to measure things in terms of absolute outcomes. How much money did you make? Now, we can use a measure like ROI to judge what to do less or more of, but we don't want to set a goal of ROI. If you set a goal of 100% ROI, for example, and you only earned $2, but you only spent $1, great, you achieved that goal. But if your boss is expecting you to make $1 million and you made $2, you can see where the disconnect is. You achieved the goal, but it's the wrong goal. When should you use ROI? When is it important? Why would you use it? You care about ROI because of efficiency. You care about ROI when you have a limited budget, limited resources, and you need to maximize those resources. Going back to the example from before, if I have 3 channels and one of them is badly underperforming, the decision is easy. Immediately cut the one that's not performing well. Then throttle back our spend on the one that's performing less well and put our eggs in the basket that's performing well until it's no longer performing well. So ROI is best used when you have limited resources and when you need to squeeze every amount of impact out of that. You need to get as much juice for the squeeze as you can, which means there are times when ROI is wrong, when ROI is the inappropriate measure to be using. ROI is a terrible measure to use when you're doing any kind of experimentation, when you're trying to do any exploration, trying to test out new things. Wrong measure, because there the outcome is very different. You're trying to discover something, trying to learn something. You're not trying to optimize the efficiency of something that already exists. Do not use ROI for experimentation. Second, if you're in a situation where growth matters more than efficiency, where you don't care very much about losing money, you care very much about achieving growth targets like new audiences, new subscribers, whatever, ROI is a metric that's far down on the list compared to that growth number. So if you're in a situation or a company where the strategy is growth, put ROI towards the bottom of the metrics that you want to keep an eye on. And third, ROI is the wrong measure if you have a non-financial outcome. Remember, it is a financial measure, which means that if you have an outcome that is non-financial, like being elected, right? That's a binary outcome. You either win the election or you lose it, but it's not a financial measure, right? You can't measure the worth of winning the election. I suppose you could measure the bribes that you take. I'm just kidding. But fundamentally, it is a non-financial measure, just like getting volunteers to sign up for something at a nonprofit, getting people to vote for a petition online. Those are non-financial outcomes, so you cannot use ROI in those situations. So how do we compute this thing? You're going to need to know 3 things. You're going to need to set a time frame. You're going to need the earned and the spent. What time frame should you measure ROI in? Generally speaking, for most companies, most of the time, the best frame is to measure whatever 2x your sales cycle is. So if you're from first touch to sale is 30 days, consider measuring ROI in a 60-day window. That will cover a good chunk of all the interactions that could be happening If your sales cycle is a year, yeah, you might have to measure ROI over 2 years just to account for some of the outliers that could still be very meaningful in terms of how much money you earned and how much money you spent. So 2x your sales cycle is a good starting place. Once you have some experience and you see what your specific company does and how it performs, you can throttle that up or down. If you find that the distribution of weird sales is really strange, there's some sales that come in that are huge mega deals, but they took 5 years to land. But they're the exception. You can tweak your ROI window. Second, you need to know how much you earned, right? How much you earned sounds like it should be easy, but unfortunately, it's really, really challenging for marketers because we don't often have full visibility into our funnels, right? We have, in some cases, limited or restricted visibility. If you take a look at the standard, in this case, like a B2B example of your funnel, there are multiple stages and you may not have great visibility into the mechanics of each stage. So what we want to do is find an inferred value that we can then put into various pieces of software and computations to understand the value of something at the last point where we have responsibility. So in this example, marketing might have responsibility for audiences and prospect generation and marketing qualified leads and maybe sales qualified leads, and we hand that off to sales. Sales goes and makes deals and wins customers. In e-commerce, it might be shopping carts. In retail, it might be getting people to walk in the door of the store. Whatever the last action marketing has, we want to find that the inferred revenue value of that action. So let's walk through an example. This would be a B2B example, but again, take the stages of your marketing funnel and map them out the same way. So you have, for example, customer lifetime value minus customer acquisition costs gives you your net customer value. So for example, if a customer's lifetime value is $100,000, maybe you sell, Tesla cars or something, and you spent $10,000 to acquire a customer, your net customer value is $90,000. When you get to the bottom of that funnel, $90,000 is what comes out when one person who becomes a customer comes through. So let's move up one step in our funnel. We have our net customer value times our sales closing rate. That's our net deal value. $90,000. Maybe we close a quarter of all sales, right? You're a Tesla dealer, and 3 out of 4 people they bail out, right? Our net deal value then, when we account for losing 3 out of 4 sales, is $22,500. So every new deal is worth an estimated $22,500 because we lose 3 out of 4. Take another step up the funnel. Our net deal value times our deal closing rate is our sales qualified lead value. So again, when marketing hands off sales qualified leads, maybe a quarter of them are bad. Maybe a quarter of them are like, oh, nope, this person actually didn't have the money. So we take our deal value times that qualification for the deals, and we end up with a sales qualified lead value of $16,875. Every sales qualified lead then, we hand off to sales. We can say it's probably worth, in aggregate, $16,875. Step up one more level in the funnel. What's our qualification rate for marketing qualified leads? It's our sales qualification lead value times the qualification rate. Maybe 3 out of 4 of the marketing qualified leads that we hand off are not sales qualified leads, right? Maybe it's, they're not ready to buy. They just want to hear more about what a cool car this is. And so we have to knock down the value to get to a marketing qualified lead. A marketing qualified lead, in this case, would be $4,219. So every time marketing creates a qualified lead, like, yes, I want to test drive this Tesla, you can say that action is worth $4,219. Take another step up to prospects, right? Prospects. What's the value of a prospect? It is the marketing qualified lead value times the prospect qualification rate. Suppose you have a whole bunch of looky-loos on your website, and 99% of them have no interest in buying a Tesla from you. None, right? They just want to see the cool car animations and stuff like that, but they're not going to put that $100 down to reserve their Cybertruck or whatever. You can then say, okay, well, if 99% of them are clearly not qualified, our prospect prospect value would be $42. If somebody does manage to put down that deposit or set up the test drive or whatever the action is, we can say that action's worth $42. Now, that seems like a lot of math, right? But that $42 number is really important because when we look at something like Google Analytics, when you set up a goal like filled out a contact form, request a demo, tell me more information, sign me up for an email, if you followed this logical process to estimate what the value of that marketing action is, you can put that in Google Analytics. You want that in Google Analytics because then in Google Analytics you can see the estimated value of what your social media is doing for you. In this example I've highlighted here, my social media is worth $27 in this example, right? So I can say assuming all of the other ratios through the funnel are correct, social media has contributed an estimated $27 towards company revenue. Now we've arrived at what social media has earned, right? Super important. We can't use the company's earnings as our earned because that's everything. We want to figure out what is social media earning, and this is one of the best ways to do it in the digital environment, right? So now we have earned. Let's talk about spent. How are we tracking spending? Marketers especially do one thing really, really, really wrong. They only look at hard dollars, money paid out to vendors. I spent this much on Facebook ads or boosted posts or Instagram ads or story ads or TikTok challenges, whatever it is. They say that's what we spent. That's not what we spent. We also spent soft dollars. Soft dollars are our time that we could have been doing something else, instead focusing on social media. So how do you compute soft dollars? An easy way to think about it is, what's the hourly rate of your work? If you're a salaried employee, it is your salary divided by 28. That's how much the company pays you per hour, right? 52 weeks a year, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, 2,080 working hours a year. Take your annual salary, divide it by that, and you'll get, if you make $70,000 US a year, your hourly rate's around $35. Give it slightly less than $35. You need this number because you need to be able to compute both what you spent in hard dollars and what you spent on social media in soft dollars in order to get social media's ROI. There's a worksheet here that I put together, a simple Google sheet that lets you plug all these numbers in to see what your ROI is. Right? And you can get it from, where can I get the slides? It's free. It's just go in and make a copy of the document. Right? Just go click File and make a copy. And you can put your calculations in to understand how much you're spending in soft dollars in social media. So that's how we compute ROI. We get what we earned. We get what we spent. Earned minus spent divided by spent is ROI. Number one question people have is, what is a good ROI? Well, fundamentally, anything bigger than 0 is good, and the bigger the better, right? The bigger the better, because it means we're earning more than we're spending. That's it. Your goal, if ROI is a measure you care about, is to keep increasing that return on investment while not losing sight of the outcomes that you care about. Revenue. Again, we're going back to the example from earlier. If you earned $2 and you spent $1, great, 100% ROI, but you missed your sales target by 1,000,000 miles. Right? You miss your actual revenue. So ROI, as a measure, keep it above 0. How do you improve your ROI? Well, the nice thing is that you only have 2 levers. You can either earn more or you can spend less. That's it. You only have 2 levers that you can pull. For most social media marketers, the lever that's going to be the easiest for you to pull is soft dollar savings. How can you spend less time doing social media in order to improve the efficiency? So here's an example. I was in the social media marketing community on Facebook, and people were chatting about how long does it take them to put together their content calendars. 2 to 3 hours a month plus 2 to 3 hours a week to create the content, 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. This kept coming up over and over and over again. If you earned $250 in revenue, you spent $100, but then you spent 18 hours doing this, doing social media, right? Your ROI is minus 67% because you're spending hours every week doing social media, doing content campaigns and stuff. If you then automated it, one of the things that I was talking about in that group was I have machine learning software that builds the calendar for me, and I'm done in 5 to 10 minutes. If I spend an hour a week or less, my ROI is 81%, almost 82%, because I've pulled that lever to reduce the soft dollar spending and increase, without changing the revenue number, I've drastically improved my ROI. So think about those two levers. How can you earn more? How can you spend less? When you look at how you're doing social media, think about, okay, well, what is working best? Right? If organic social posting is taking you 3 hours a week to put together content and you're not seeing any results from it, it's probably time to give it up and just focus on paid only. Here's what you'll do wrong first when you first get into the wonderful world of ROI. First, again, people think it's a goal. It's not a goal. It's a measurement of your efficiency at achieving your goals. Keep that in mind. You will almost certainly mess up the soft dollar part at first because you'll forget about it or you'll have trouble computing it. That's okay. Just get there. But remember to always be asking, what is the opportunity cost? What is the soft dollar? What is the human labor cost of anything that you're doing? And by the way, the doing the social media, I used to work in an agency. The doing the social media typically actually wasn't the biggest expenditure of time. It was all the meetings we were in to plan doing the social media, 30 hours a week of meetings. Those are opportunity cost dollars. You have to be sure to include that in your computations. If you're spending hours a week in meetings about your social media, you are still spending time on social media, which means you are still costing those soft dollars. And finally, the one that people mess up a ton, return on ad spend is not ROI. Return on ad spend and return on investment are two very different computations. Return on investment is earned minus spent divided by spent. Return on ad spend is earned divided by spent. That's it. You can see there's a big difference in these two. When I see reports from inexperienced analysts and I see, they say our return on ad spend was this or ROI was whatever the return on ad spend number is. Like, no, that's not how that works. They're very different numbers. Return on ad spend does not in any way account for the cost of profit, which is what the earned minus spent is. ROAS has its place. It has its place, but it is an incomplete measure of the cost of acquiring customers. And so if you're being asked how you make your social media more efficient, you have to use ROI. So to recap, social media ROI is a comparative financial measure to gauge efficiency. Make sure that you are using it as such to compare dollars and cents and use it to guide how to make your outcomes more efficient. It is not a goal. It is not an outcome itself. Don't use it as one. But use it well. Use it within the definitions we've talked about today. And give some thought to what you think social media is to help you expand your options for that. Remember those two levers, earn minus earnings and spendings. Use their alternate definitions to increase what you can earn by spending time in places that are not so expensive and not so crowded. Thank you for your attention. If you want to learn more, we've got some contact information on this slide. You can just pause the video here to take a note or take a picture. And I look forward to seeing you at our next Trust Insights event. Take care. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.